Today, I am joined by Jacob Chansley, the man known as the J6 Shaman, the person that Nancy Pelosi, Liz Cheney, and others tried to paint as the poster boy of evil on J6. Jacob, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me and helping me to dispel that nonsense.
Yeah, I was one of the first people to have you on my show after you got out of jail, because I never believed your story. I always thought that there was something going on, that they were lying to the American people. I didn't realize how much they were lying to the American people. Remind me and my viewers again, how long were you in solitary confinement?
I was in solitary confinement for a total of 10 and a half months. And technically 2 weeks is the most that you're supposed to put somebody in solitary without it being some level of torture.
I mean, the fact that you didn't have a mental breakdown, that you still have a good attitude, you go to AmFest and take pictures with people. That's where you and I just met. I was able to introduce my wife to you at the Charlie Kirk event. I mean, it just goes to show, the mental strength that you have. Unbelievable. I want to jump into this question with you. Liz Cheney is given the Presidential Citizens Medal by President Biden, saying that she is an excellent American citizen in her role of going after the J6 prisoners and trying to show the world the truth about the evil of Donald Trump. We now know that they destroyed evidence. She lied. She did witness tampering, witness intimidation, talking with witnesses without their attorney present. What are your thoughts on Joe Biden giving her the Presidential Citizen Medal?
I'll say this. The woman, I think, is a symbol, and what they did was a symbol of saying that they're all going to go down together. I think that was what that was. Because why didn't they give one to Kinzinger? Why didn't they give one? You know what I'm saying? I also think that it's about who she's connected to and her dad more than it's about her. It's kind of like a showing of solidarity amongst the globalists as they all go down on a sinking ship. That's what I think.
Okay. In the last 24 hours, President Trump said not only does he want Liz Cheney investigated for her role in the January 6th cover-up and everything else that I just mentioned, but he said that she deserves to be jailed for destroying lives and destroying evidence that would have helped over 1,000 defendants that were arrested, charged, abused, humiliated. What are your thoughts on him calling for her to be investigated and jailed?
Technically, what she and the rest of the J6 committee did was commit the 1512 charge that so many people, they committed the 1512, they violated the 1512 statute, and so they could be charged under the 1512 statute with obstruction of an official proceeding. You see, because they destroyed evidence. That's actually what the Supreme Court was saying that whole thing was about, was destroying evidence in relationship to a federal investigation or a federal court proceeding or what have you. So essentially, that's exactly what they did. So all of these people on the J6 committee could very well be charged with the one thing that the government overcharged a bunch of J6ers to get convictions, and that I think is poetic justice.
Yeah, that's the exact word that just came to my mind while you were talking was, wouldn't it be poetic justice and irony if some of them end up going down for the very thing that they tried to ruin over 1,000 Americans' lives with? Now, remind me.
Well, actually, hold on a second. Hold on. Now, it's important to know. The over 1,000 arrests that were made were lives that were ruined, but over misdemeanors. And that's part of what's so terrible about it. But the other 300 or so or more, a little over 300 people that got charged with the 1512 charge, those people have a felony. Okay, now keep this in mind. The government and the media together basically told the whole nation that these people are white supremacists or that they're racist or terrorists or insurrectionists. And now they've taken away their right to defend themselves by not allowing them to own a firearm and then telling everybody in society that they're a social pariah now. Do you see what I'm saying? Like the way that they're sentencing people actually in one way or another to a life sentence.
Yeah. It's interesting because the media portrayed a lot of people as these Second Amendment right-wing nut jobs that tried to overthrow the American government, yet none of them showed up with guns. And now one of the main things as a felon, unless you're Hunter Biden, you can't have a gun. So like it's rules for me and not for thee, or how
rules for thee, but not for me. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so,
it's Animal Farm, dude. It's Animal Farm.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, we're all equal except a couple of us, we're better than the rest of you. The pigs.
It reminds me of the whole thing, like what socialism or communism or what the New World Order actually is everybody equally sharing in misery. That's it. That's the equality right there. Everybody's equally miserable.
Yeah. Yeah. They say socialism works until you run out of other people's money, and communism works as long as everyone's willing to share in the misery.
And neither of those things happen for very long.
Yeah. No, they don't. That's why, unless you absolutely are a tyrant, communism doesn't lead to a successful society.
But the thing, even if you are a tyrant, it doesn't. You see, like there's certain ways that tyranny can actually kind of be prolonged as long as the people are kept, their bellies are full. It's the bread in the circus, right? You know what I'm saying? There's ways of doing that. Communism, there's no way of stopping the destruction of that civilization or that society. It's just, it will fall apart eventually. That's what we're seeing with China right now.
Yeah. Trump also said until an investigation of Liz Cheney and others can be done, he's going to pardon people involved in the January 6th situation once he gets into office. Do you feel that is the right move?
I heard it was clemency.
Clemency, okay.
And I think that is the right move, and I'll explain why. Clemency basically says, okay, everybody, your sentences are over. We're going to just kind of start over. Right. And then we're going to conduct an investigation. And so it's look at it like this. A pardon basically says, OK, everybody's wiped clean. A clemency says, OK, we're going to do some investigations and then we're going to pardon people appropriately. And that's the right thing to do, in my opinion. If I don't care if you're BLM or MAGA, if you hit a cop, then you should do some time. OK, like if you got hit with a rubber bullet or with a concussion grenade or tear gas or whatever, you should not have gone and tried to fight the system. You should have been like, okay, you know what? I'm out of here. This is getting crazy. Or at least turn the other cheek, do the Christ-like thing. And I know that's a lot, to ask of people, but I also do think J6 was a setup. I think a lot of the violence and the chaos was something that was actually kind of provoked on purpose. Because if you throw tear gas into a crowd, then what's the crowd going to do around the tear gas? They're going to move like this, right? So if you have barriers and then you have crowd and then you fire tear gas back here, that part of that crowd's going to move forward. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. They were pushing them forward with these percussion grenades and smoke and different things like that. I want to come to the FBI involvement because a lot has come out just in the last 2 weeks. But remind my audience, you were not there to cause chaos. You weren't there to overthrow Nancy Pelosi, anything like that. What was your main reason for going to the Capitol on January 6th?
The same reasons that for going on December 12th. If there's going to be 1 million people assembled on the ley lines, the sacred site that is our nation's capital, then as a shamanic practitioner, it is my duty and obligation to be there and ensure the highest possible frequencies of love, peace, and harmony are placed into the grid system. And that may sound kind of far out there to a lot of people. I'm more of a spiritual activist than a political one. So my reasons for going are largely different. And so January 6th, December 12th, same reasons. And were it not for the fact that God parted the Red Sea for me twice and allowed me to go there on a shoestring budget, then I would not have been able to be there in the first place.
Yeah, I think a lot of people misunderstand why you were there. They think that, the media portrayed you as the poster boy of evil, that you were leading the charge against Nancy Pelosi and everything that was happening. And in reality, you get to the inner chamber and you are singing and praying and trying to keep good energy. You're looking out for people. I mean, all of that video footage comes out. And if that hadn't come out, I don't know that your name would have been able to be cleared. Listen up, because I want to help you save money and make good financial decisions in 2025. A lot of us are trying to get our finances in order and start the year off right. There is some great news for homeowners. Interest rates have now dropped and are in the 5s. If you have been buried in high interest credit card debt, now is the time to break free. American Financing can help you access the cash in your home to pay off your high interest debt. Last year, their salary-based mortgage consultants helped customers save on average $800 a month. That's like giving yourself a $10,000 a year raise. What a great way to start the new year. And if you start today, you might be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. Call American Financing today at 888-686-8030 or visit americanfinancing.net/Gardner. Again, that's 888-686-8030. Go save yourself some money right now.
Yes, it's definitely the Achilles heel to the whole J6 narrative. And that's why I commend Tucker Carlson for at least having the courage to, publicize it, because it did take courage. And in all honesty, they went after me more so about, they said I threatened Mike Pence because of the note that I left, on the desk, which just said it's only a matter of time, justice is coming. I wasn't trying to, make a threat or anything. I'm for justice. I believe that there's a quote, Satan reasons like a man, but God thinks of eternity, right? So I believe in this idea of time being a great thickener of things. And as things, move on, we're going to start seeing more justice. And I think that right now, we're being proven right in one way or another, because Trump is getting into office and the people are tired of the status quo. And that was made very clear, crystal clear on election night.
Yeah. Well, I feel like Mike Pence got a little bit of justice after he did a Tucker Carlson interview where Tucker is saying, the price of milk has gone up, gas, like life has become so difficult. And Mike Pence said, none of that's my concern. And his presidential campaign was over, absolutely over. And I felt like, whoa, man, justice just slapped you across the face real quickly.
Yes. And that's why, I don't seek vengeance against the government. I don't seek vengeance against those who tried to smear my name. Vengeance does not quench the thirst for revenge. God says vengeance is mine, right? Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. So every time I have just sat back and allowed God to handle things and not do anything other than turn the other cheek, when I have done what God wants me to do and turn the other cheek, I've seen amazing results with people. I have seen them step in their own doo-doo over and fall in it and slip on it over and over and over again and become the social pariah that they tried to make me out to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I want to get into the FBI thing, but I just have one more question. So you shouldn't be in solitary confinement for more than a couple weeks. It's really hard on mental health. What did you do each day for 10 and a half months to keep yourself sane and keep your hope alive?
Well, in the beginning, I wrote scripts, I wrote books, I wrote movies, I wrote letters to God. I prayed a lot. It was hard to read. In the beginning, I also didn't really have much of a routine. And when you don't have a routine in solitary, every day is very, very, very difficult. So once I ended up realizing, okay, I need to create a routine for myself, then it became a little bit easier. But in the beginning, it was creative and efforts and endeavors. But the darkness that solitary confinement is on the soul, it kind of stifles creativity. You can kind of lose yourself in it, but it can also snuff it out because the anxiety of what's coming or the depression of being stuck there. These things are very heavy weights on the mind, especially when you have 25 years hanging over your head as a maximum sentence, and not and the media basically calling for your head. The tremendous amounts of pressure that I felt. I mean, I could get into it, but it's a long story. Let's just say that the place that I was at felt like Azkaban from Harry Potter, and there was like Death Eaters moving throughout that place that would suck your life out of your face. You know what I'm saying? Like, it sucked. It was bad. But my heart and mind are stronger. The pressure and the time ended up turning me into a diamond. Made me what David Goggins calls anti-fragile. And for that, I'm grateful.
Yeah. Wow. I've been through some hard things, and I feel the same way. I didn't like going through them, but afterwards I think, my gosh, I had so much growth, and I'm better because of it, but I don't know that I would want to go through it again.
Yes.
What is your feeling on the fact that as of right now, there's been basically no accountability on Nancy Pelosi, Capitol Police, General Mark Milley, Mayor Bowser of Washington, D.C., rejecting the National Guard, which Trump and Kash Patel wanted in order to keep order at the Capitol. Now we're finding out there was, I think, 26 undercover FBI informants dressed like Trump supporters, instigating chaos, pushing people towards the Capitol. What are your thoughts on all of that?
I think it's way more than 26. Anytime the government investigates itself, you can always bet there's a bunch of stuff they're hiding. That's part of why I think that Trump getting into office is so important. Because what we have with the Trump administration is more than just Trump, who has been maligned by the system and been, in many ways, a perfect example of what happens when you challenge the system. Right? The way that they go after you and what they've done to him. So he has it, at this point, it's kind of personal, and it should be, because it's personal against everybody. But now he also has a bunch of other people that has happened to, that have been maligned by the system, and it's become personal. People like RFK Jr. Look at that. Look at what they tried to do with Secret Service, the way the Democrat Party, I mean, let alone the 20 years or 30 years he's been practicing law and dealing with the bureaucracy and maligned by the system that way. Look what happened to Tulsi Gabbard. You know what I'm saying? Look what happened to Kash Patel or any of these people that he's talking about placing in some of these cabinet positions. We're talking about people that have been maligned by the system, and in many cases, people that are experts in their field. Thomas Massie as head of the Department of Agriculture is probably one of the best moves that he could have made, right next to RFK Jr. being in charge at HHS. Okay, and then when you got people like Elon Musk, who are like experts in efficiency, coming in and looking at gross government spending. Well, I think it's definitely a better recipe than the one the American people have been being given, and I think it's definitely an opportunity for change. What change that will take is actually largely up to us.
Yeah, we're going to have to stay on top of them to fulfill that mandate that we've given with the border, with cleaning up these crazy budgets, foreign spending, endless profitable wars. It's up to
and also, Stephen, and also ensuring that we don't trade a Democrat-run deep state for a Republican-run deep state. That's not what we're looking for. Yeah. Okay, at this point, what we can conclude is that the Republicans and the Democrats over the last several decades have not been running the government the way that the Constitution says, or the way that the founding fathers would run the government. We can all agree on that. This is not what our founders had in mind. Now, granted, we have some modern issues that our founders weren't dealing with, but the principles and the fundamental foundation of what the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and Declaration of Independence is like written on, and what the foundation, like the spiritual foundation that's written on, that spirit can be alive in all modern American systems, whether it be modern technology or things like zero-point energy engines or TR3B craft or whatever. There's this idea that there can't be innovation, that only certain industries are allowed, is not the American way, and that's largely why we're in the mess we're in.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about Kash Patel as the new director of the FBI, and do you think he wants to get to the bottom of what really happened on January 6th.
Yes. Now, from what I understand, Kash Patel doesn't need Trump's quote unquote approval to declassify things that Christopher Wray has classified. Okay. Now, if Trump tells Kash, go in there, carte blanche, I trust you, clean house, right? Then do I trust Kash to do the job? Yeah. Yeah. I've heard some of the things that he said, and it's obviously very, very different from some of the things that are said by other talking heads on the television. Here's the thing that I think people like Kash or even RFK Jr. either already know or are going to begin to learn, and that is that there's a whole lot more than they thought, and it's kind of like the Twitter files. Imagine that with the FBI or with the HHS. Imagine all of the cures that the FDA has been sitting on for cancer. The cures for cancer they've been keeping from the public to protect big pharma's interests. Okay? And this idea of American corporations or American interests. Do you see? Did you watch the whole thing, Mike Benz on Joe Rogan? Did you watch that podcast?
Yeah, my first thought was I need to watch this again with a pen and paper. There was so much that he shared.
Yes, but the point is that the censorship industrial complex is there not so much to protect the American people, but to protect quote unquote American interests or American corporations, which at this point are globalist or international corporations. They're globalist run. So they're protecting the assets of the globalists under the guise of doing the American people a service. And they're taking our tax dollars and basically funding our own enslavement to these corporations and their monopolies on our resources, our labor, and our currency. And when we get into things like the Fed, which they're also talking about getting rid of in the Trump administration, we're really talking about taking back the country from this international crime syndicate that has been trying to enslave the planet for many, many, many moons.
Yeah. Let's switch gears just for a minute. This morning, Justin Trudeau makes this public video announcement that he's stepping down as the Prime Minister of Canada. He's no longer qualified to run the Canadian government. I was like, yes, oh, this is such great news. What are your thoughts on getting rid of these leaders like Biden and Trudeau? Trudeau, his two big sins, well, there's many, but allowing Canada to be overrun with illegal immigrants, and then the Trucker Freedom Rally, where he basically went into Canadian citizens. He stole their money. He froze their bank accounts. He destroyed their businesses, their reputations, took away their trucking licenses, their assets, their trucks. What are your thoughts on him announcing, I'm no longer qualified to run this government?
Wasn't he a theater teacher?
I something like that.
Yeah. Sounds to me like he's been playing a part on a global stage for a long time. And at this point, people realize it's a ruse. It's all a puppet show. And he is an embodiment of everything that's wrong in Canada. And everything that's wrong on a global scale, just like Biden and Harris. That's why they were wholly rejected. Same thing with Macron in France. Okay? And what's going on right now with the scandal in England and what happened with all of these rape gangs and people like Jimmy Savile and how long that this was being suppressed and how vulnerable the British people have been, and nothing has been done. Everything in the dark will come to light, okay? There's nothing in the dark that will not come to light. So saith the Lord, right? So my thing is how best for this process to go as smoothly as possible and be almost in one way or another, even if it's unpleasant, burned into the memory or the psyche of the planet, of at least our country, of like, look, this is what happens when you don't care about public affairs. I think it was actually Plato that said something along the lines of, when you don't care about the price you pay for not caring about public affairs or being involved in them is being ruled by evil men, or weak men. And weak men create hard times. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times,
Yeah. Yeah, I was so happy to see him resign. I was shocked that he held out as long as he has, because I just think most Canadians are so sick of this guy. And we'll see what ends up happening to Canada. Who knows? Maybe they become the 51st state. Most likely, they just end up with a more conservative government, just like
Remember, but they are part of UK, right? They're part of England. They're still a part of the crown, are they not?
I think so. The Queen is on their money.
Yeah, they're still a part of the crown. So that would be like the ultimate kick in the nuts to the British Empire for Canada to finally defect to the United States. Now, the question then becomes, let's say all the Canadians are willing, or at least a majority of them are willing. Are the American people ready? Do we want a bunch of Canadian socialists that voted for Trudeau in our country? Or as a 51st state. And I don't mean that to be, mean or whatever, but it's like, look, we have to remember what we're talking about here. We just got done talking about how we didn't want to dilute our country with a bunch of illegal immigrants that are voting a certain way because they don't have any vested interest in the system. Now you're talking about adopting a bunch of socialists from Canada. Well, let's take care of our own stuff first, okay? And then we can talk about adopting a child. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good analogy. I know today, while the members of Congress are certifying President Trump as the 47th president, Kevin O'Leary is down at Mar-a-Lago talking with Trump, not about Canada becoming the 51st state, but how could we work together even more? And to me, it makes sense to work with our neighbors versus, the Middle East or something. You see Biden just tried to shut down all of this drilling and oil and everything. Why? So that we have to keep buying oil from Venezuela and Iran and the Middle East, countries that hate our guts but are willing to take our money. It's time to put America first. Okay.
Yes.
Couple more things. I appreciate you coming on. I know you've already done several interviews today. Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, said that January 6th is one of the most tragic days in American history, and that 5 police officers died defending their country. I have read through all of the reports. I do not see anywhere where 5 police officers died. One guy died a couple days later of a brain bleed that didn't have anything to do with January 6th. Why are they putting out these lies? Is it just to try to cement that this was such a horrible, wicked day?
It's a psyop. Okay. Trigger words and trigger images that stimulate instinctual responses in the subconscious portion of the brains, largely associated with either procreation, aka sex, or avoiding danger. Right, aka avoiding death or some sort of danger, right? So these stimulate instinctual responses, emotional responses that can then be directed at individuals. And this is how Psy-War works, okay? Is you get enough people to believe something and then you can weaponize the mob. This is what they've done with woke, right? If you don't go with the DEI score stuff, then they send some group outside of your establishment to protest that you hate trans people. You know what I'm saying? It's the same recipe. Just at this point it's become exhausted. Now this is what's interesting, is that if you know how the psyop works and you know trigger words, trigger images, you know the recipe, right? Then you can almost see it like a die marker in these establishment media outlets or newspapers and stuff like that of who is owned by the globalists. Because then you can see the globalist narrative seep into the American system, and where it's coming from is the places you want to avoid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What Breitbart News announced that not too long after Trump is inaugurated as the 47th president, that there's going to be a $50 billion class action lawsuit of the J6 defendants against the federal government and the Department of Justice. Do you know much about that? Are you one of the people that's part of the class action lawsuit?
No. From what I understand, the poster boy or the poster child of this lawsuit is a man named Jake Lang. From what I understand, Jake Lang hit a cop. I sympathize with his plight. I think it's wrong that he's been denied constitutional rights. However, if you hit a cop, I think you should go to jail. I think you should serve some time. And I don't think that should be obfuscated. I don't think that should be pardoned, to be perfectly honest with you. The media lies and says, okay, 5 cops died. We know that's not true. We know that's lies. Now we can identify all the bad media outlets not to listen to. But we also have to be very, very careful about the people that are supposedly on the side of freedom and stuff that we also listen to, or that we allow to represent certain movements for justice. Okay? What was done to me? Terribly wrong. Terribly wrong. Okay? I accepted responsibility regardless, because that's what men do. Okay? If they screw up, or if they, break the law, and if they're a law-abiding citizen, they say, okay, I'll serve the time. Now, the Supreme Court said I didn't deserve to do, the 1512 charge. That doesn't, that's not applicable. But going into the building illegally, all that stuff, I accept responsibility. The only way that we're going to have a successful lawsuit for people like myself that were maligned by the media or the government system is if we can prove what's called malevolent intent, or the full knowledge that what was being done was a violation of the constitutional rights, and they did it anyway, right? So if we have cables like emails where these people are openly discussing, like, yeah, we have to go after this guy with the horns and face paint. Well, he didn't do anything. He didn't really do anything. What are we going to, let's hit him with the 1512 charge. Do you see what I'm saying? If they're going to argue in court that doesn't apply. It's for blah, 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 blah. It's for Enron. Doesn't matter. They'll plead guilty. Do you see what, if we have like channels like that, then we have a reason to sue the government. And it's usually going to probably be on like an individual basis. But if you got people like Jake Lang who hit a cop being the face of a lawsuit, a $50 billion lawsuit, to me, that just doesn't sound like it's a good plan for success for either that group or any other J6er. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was part of the plan. I don't know. I don't know the people that are behind it.
Okay. Interesting.
Does all that make sense though?
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. It's like I call it the pie chart of responsibility, right? Like, okay, you were responsible for going into the Capitol, but did you beat a cop? Did you injure anyone? Did you threaten anyone? No, that was all proven thanks to video footage and testimonial witnesses and all of that. And you take responsibility. I think that's very admirable. Did you deserve to be in solitary confinement for 10.5 months? Absolutely not. Right.
And so that I think is where this idea of people are like, well, I want justice. And this is where I'm at on that. Okay. If I could trade what it is that I went through and never be able to sue the government, but all of the people that have been screwing us over and ruining our lives for the last several decades are out of power and we have a new system that's better, I'll take that as a trade any day of the frickin' week. Any day of the week. Okay? That's a small price to pay for a upgrade or an evolution in civilization.
Yeah. Well, I hope we get that with this new Trump administration. They're certifying him to be the 47th president. He's only one guy, like you said earlier. This is up to us to now take back our country, hold people accountable, and turn it into the great America that we want it to be. I'm grateful for patriots like yourself that have the courage to stand up. I hate that they wronged you the way that they did, but justice, or at least the truth came out about your story. And I hate that you had to have a Job-like moment where maybe only you and God knew that you were in the right on some of this. So if people want to follow you online, where can I point them towards?
They can go to my X profile at America Shaman. That's America Shaman on X or Twitter. And then they can also go to my website, ForbiddenTruthAcademy.com. That's Forbidden Truth, TRUTH, Academy.com, where we have literally dozens of hours of free content. You also can buy my book, One Mind at a Time, A Deep State of Illusion by Jacob Angeli. It's only $9.99. It's only 150 pages. If you want to know what the deep state is, that book will tell you, and it's all facts. You also have my merchandise, which is actually one of these shirts is actually from my store, the TR3B, triangular shaped craft, it's secret government craft. They've had it for some time. But anyway, Yeah, so it's all there. And then if they want to find me on Rumble, they can go to Yellowstone Wolf AZ. That's all one word, Yellowstone Wolf AZ on Rumble.
Okay, great. I'll put those direct links down below so people can find you easily. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you, Stephen. God bless.